Growing your business and growing revenue doesn't have to come from brand new customers.
In today's episode, we break down how companies grow revenue without chasing new customers.
We've got ourselves some great customers that have grown in size, damn awesome to work with. We wish we could replicate those customers. It's a hell of a lot easier, number one. You've built the trust, you've delivered a result, you've given them an ROI. So to sell to the existing customer again is arguably a lot more easier.
This episode breaks down what a land and expand strategy looks like, from winning the account to intentional growth.
Once they win the account, there's no documentation internally around what could that account become.
If you want to stop leaving money on the table in 2026, this is the system most companies are missing. Welcome to the Revenue Leaders Podcast.
Growing your business doesn't have to always mean getting new customers, bringing new users on board. There are better ways to do this, right? So this is what we're going to talk about today. And often, we had this conversation the other day. We were talking about how to stop leaving money on the table. We've got ourselves some great customers that have grown in size and are damn awesome to work with. And we wish we could replicate, those customers. So let's do a bit of a strategy session here to help those listening and watching on how they can build a strategy to get more out of their customers and how to stop leaving money on the table.
Okay, so just want to clarify, right? So you're talking about you've won that account. And do you
I've won the account,
overmanage and then stop winning?
We've delivered the service.
Yep.
They're happy.
Okay, they're happy.
Right?
Great.
They're happy, right? So we've got tick, tick, tick. Now it's opportunity of, is there a way that we can expand within the business? And again, it's going to vary depending on the customer. Where do they have different departments that we can sell into? If not, are there other customers that are like them or similar to them that they can help us get into?
Yeah, well, I love this concept, right? And I love it because I've been a big fan, and I think a lot of my success in my career came from the land and expand motion, right? Win an account, do whatever it takes to get in the door, because that allows me to have permission to start to influence, go wider within the account and start to capture more revenue from that account, right? Because we all know, as exciting as it is to hunt, it's exciting, but it's hard work. But once we've got that account, sometimes, and what we see with many organizations, is they fail to deliver a proactive plan on growing that particular account. So let's talk it through.
It's a hell of a lot easier, number one. You've built the trust, you've delivered a result, you've given them an ROI. So to sell to the existing customer again is arguably a lot more easier, right?
And I think the biggest gap that I see when it comes to the land and expand strategy is once they win the account, there's no documentation internally around what could that account become.
So you're talking about wait 30 days, then touch base, like a bit of a process?
No, going back even before that.
Okay.
So you've just won the account. Say, let's put a number on the table. It's a 100K account. There's no hypothesis or there's no sort of thinking around this could become $1 million account, right? They're based on discovery questions that's happening in the sales process. You get a fair idea on what the potential. And we take it back to when we had our book launch. We had Marcus. The initial project that we got across the line was a pilot initiative, but we knew there was a bigger project at play. So we leveraged the land and expand model. It was, let's get our influence into the organization first. And we knew we had a clear idea on what it could become.
So you kind of think about short-term win, long-term plan, essentially.
Requires patience.
Correct.
Right?
But you have to have a plan around it. It can't be reactive. So, from a land and expand perspective, it's determining, is there more that we can win here? If the question is yes, what could it be? Say there's an extra 200, 100, 50K, whatever it is. Once you've determined that, then what are the actions that we need to do with our client, as a partner to unlock that revenue? And it can't be reactive.
Yeah, because you could almost reverse engineer some of your existing clients, right?
Yeah.
So if you look, who are my most loyal clients that I love working with? Like you were saying, you've got some great clients that you work with. Reverse engineering that and say, how did I actually get them to that point of my biggest client with multiple, if you're a SaaS company with multiple products or whatever, and then figure out, okay, if I'm starting with this one very small piece, like a pilot, how do I get from A to B? And I guess that planning kind of does that.
Yeah.
What does it look like?
Well, first, I think on the plan perspective, it's obviously there's got to be a healthy balance because most organizations, yes, they need to grow through existing accounts. They can't stop looking at new accounts either, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to have that healthy balance. But let's look at an ideal blueprint here. An ideal blueprint is you've got an engine that's bringing in new accounts, but you need to also have the support structure in place to take those new accounts and ensure that you retain them, because you can't have such a leaky funnel where you're winning and you're just losing because it becomes like just a horrible circle and pain going through that process, right? Retention's really, really important, but it's not just about retaining, but it's also about increasing the value of those opportunities. And again, that's a strategy. So let's take it back a step. So the first step is, as I mentioned before, is having a point of view on what the potential is in the organization. Pardon the interruption. I'm Luigi, one of the co-hosts here at Revenue Leaders. You'll notice we don't run sponsors or ads on Revenue Leaders.
This show is free. Our goal is to help you grow revenue and build your sales system that you can rely on. We do have a favour to ask though.
If this episode gives you one clear idea that you can use, do these two things. First, share it with one person, a founder, a revenue leader, or a rep who wants to grow their business. Just one. That's how the show grows.
Second, grab free access to our vault over at coachpilot.com/vault. Inside, you'll get the frameworks, templates, and short courses we use with clients to help them scale pipeline and increase win rates.
So the deal is simple. If you get value, share the episode with one person and go to coachpilot.com/vault to get the tools to put this into action. All right, let's get back to it.
So as a sales professional, we're going in there with a view of we need to understand the current state. We need to understand the state of play. Once we understand state of play and we've got an understanding of where they're going as an organization, we know that, you know what, there is potential there. So this is where it's crucial to capture that information. And if you're not continuing to work on that account, because maybe internally, depending on your company structure, you might have, I win, somebody else manages. There needs to be a really good handover. The person winning needs to clearly articulate to the person managing to say, hey, this is what's happening in their business. This is why they've purchased from us. This is the outcome they're looking for. And my expectation is, or my perspective on this, there's more within the account. Right.
That's such a good point because over the course of the last few years, I would say that's where things like that expectation of the client, so me as a client, has gone from, oh yeah, this is awesome. We're going to go in with this. They're going to be on this journey. I've shared my vision. And then I get to, a customer success manager and it's just like,
there's not a shared level of excitement and potentially as an organization, the structure is I might be overloading my customer success manager or my account manager, like traditional, models. The account manager is overloaded with accounts. So they can't service them to a point of let's drive growth within those accounts. And again, if I look at the learning that I've had working with organizations and coaching even account managers, is often they will spend their time with only a small amount of their accounts that they're managing because they've got too many. Right. And so they will then be, it's the Pareto principle. They can only do so much with a certain amount of time they've got in the day. So I think this is where the healthy balance needs to come in. But the land and expand strategy, it's a very important one, right? But it's about having you don't need to have a overly complex account plan.
That's pretty simple.
Because if it gets too complex, it's too hard to execute.
Do you want to give an example of how would you put one down into play?
Again, really simple. Know the potential. You've got to have, if this is what we're currently billing, what's the potential? Because that shows there's a growth opportunity within that account, right?
Yeah, current and anticipated.
What's your anticipated revenue and why? You've got to have the reason behind it. You can't just make it up and say, we expect 50% growth in this account. There's got to be a reason.
Yeah.
And that comes from your early discovery conversation. Once you've got that, then it's about understanding who within the organization do we need to influence to unlock that revenue, right? Actually identifying these are the relationships that we've got. These are the relationships we need to build. Then it's about saying, well, what's our action plan to achieve that? And Also, don't be afraid, and this is where I see a lot of organizations, they keep that document internal. Share that with your client.
Because can I be the client advocate here? Is that I have been like one of those on the other side where I've got a very ambitious SaaS company coming to me, and every time I've got a problem, all they do is flog their products and they don't actually help me solve it. So on that plan, I would also add like, what are the client problems that need to be solved? Yeah. And you know, sometimes you don't have to go in super hard with what your product does to be able to solve that. It's more like help be a part of that journey, that trusted advisor, because that's going to get you there a lot easier than the push. Yeah. So as you were saying, like share it, build it together, like work on what that long-term view could be as a partnership. I swear, like we've got this tool, right? Surely
we've got an account planning tool. So
yeah. So
if you really want, go to the Coach Pilot Vault, and you can get access to the account planning tool. But I think you're right. But we go back a step. It's critical that this is. You're absolutely right, Riggs. It's not just about, hey, we're selling more, but there's got to be a continual focus on how do we continue to create value, right? How do we continue to share insight? Because we don't want to be seen as the vendor or the supplier. We want to be seen as the partner, that trusted advisor that's continuing to drive value within an organization. Now, we've seen the benefits of that. We've just had a European client come back to us after a few months. We haven't spoken to them for a while. Again, because we've been continuing to provide insight where needed and just nurture them, they've come back and said, hey, we've got a problem. We really need some help from you guys because we've been relentless in our focus on nurturing. And that's our motto, right? We guide, nurture, and educate. And so I think that's got to be the primary focus from an account management and a land and expand model, a motion, right? Is even though we're trying to grow the account, we still need to be applying the principle of we've got to be delivering insights. We've got to be delivering value, but making sure, and I think if we go back a step, critical success factors around this, making sure handover, if you have that motion where somebody wins and somebody manages, the handover's got to be clear. Then having an agreed plan. So this is what we expect in revenue from this account over the next 12 months because of A, B, C. And this is our action plan. That's a simple account plan. And then making sure you execute on that plan. And if things don't go to plan, then it's about understanding, well, what stopped us, right? What's not working? Maybe we're not delivering what we initially sold, and that's left a sour taste.
But again, ask the client.
Ask the client, right? And don't be afraid. I think the other part to this is don't be afraid to use that and work with your client on that mutual action plan to say, hey, this is our roadmap together. This is what we're trying to work towards. You win, we win, right? It's a mutual, there's collaboration. That's the partnership model.